My phone says 4. We ought to be close. Welcome to Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting. It's Monday, February 10th at 4 p.m. We're in the Carson City Community Center at the Sierra Room. Can I get a roll call, Linda?
Trish Twinnereth.
Present.
Mike Riggs.
Present.
Mike Jones.
Here.
Mike Santos.
Here.
Stacy Giomi. Here. We have a quorum.
I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. At this time, public is invited to comment on any or discuss any topic that is relevant or to or within the authority of this public body. Mark, I see you're chomping at the bit. You're ready to go. Can't wait for me to finish. Welcome.
Afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good. How are you? I'm usually over there. I'm pleased to give the CTA board and staff a little update on some of the arts and cultural events that we have cooking for 2020. We have a Celebrate Culture grant that we put together last year, and that's to provide support for multi-ethnic events here in Carson City. So I want to give you an update on 3. The International Film Festival will be February 27 to 29 here at the Community Center. These are free events for films in different languages, and there's always a talk afterwards. They're highly successful. And on March 27 and 28, we're actually having a string quartet from St. Petersburg, Russia here for the second time. There was a sellout event at the State Museum last year. They're thrilled to be back again. And then Polynesia Day, May 2nd. And last year that brought in about 300 participants downtown at the Nevada State Museum. That also falls on a wine walk. So I thought it might be a good idea to maybe collaborate later, and we'll talk about that. Also, March 16, 17, and 18, Carson City will be hosting Randy Cohen. He's the Vice President of Research and Policy for Americans for the Arts in Washington, D.C. That's the nation's national arts advocacy arm, created to support the National Endowment of the Arts, which was made in '65 by Congress. Randy Cohen, I've seen him speak in Washington, D.C. He's energetic. He's full of lots of statistics and lots of data. He's been there with Americans for the Arts since 90 or 91. He's considered a professional in the field, and he's always brought on to C-SPAN and other networks for his knowledge of all the funding mechanisms for arts and culture for municipalities. And I have him lined up to speak to the Chamber, the Rotary, hotels, media. So we're excited to have him. We are in the middle of a 10-month cultural swap with the town of Tonopah, their Visitors Bureau. This was through a grant from the Nevada Arts Council for partnership between rural and urban identities. And we're the urban identity in this relationship here. And so it's really exciting because we've been able to partner with local breweries and local hotels and local ghost walks and provide opportunities for people from Tonopah and Hawthorne to come to Carson City and vice versa. And they're posting these experiences on Facebook. We've also sent some Carson City artwork down to the Convention Center in Tonopah. Right now in City Hall, we have a photographer, a grandmother and granddaughter photographer in City Hall, so you'll have to check out their artwork too. Then each month online, we create a digital splice of public artwork in Carson City and Tonopah, and we mix it to sort of conceptually make a new piece of artwork, so that's exciting. This April, we're partnering with the Carson City Library. They do an annual Capital Reads program in the spring, and the novel that they chose this April is John Muir's My First Summer in the Sierra. And so if you're familiar, if you remember the True Grit 30 Days of Events based upon a literary book, I'm thinking of something similar for this, where we can partner with maybe Parks and Recs and do a reading outdoors. I think it's going to be really fun. And then I'm partnering with the Clerk's Recorder's Office. They were in search of some newly designed I Voted stickers. And so we're making a competition open to all high schoolers here in Carson City for them to design new I Voted stickers. We're going to put 2 designs into production, 7,000 stickers apiece. We're going to have those available at both polling locations and really try to cross-pollinate civics, government, and graphic design, the arts. And these are our future voters. And I think it's a terrific partnership to get them invested in what we do here. Lastly, I'll be coming in front of you in March or in April when I hear back from a $15,000 grant I applied for through Travel Nevada, and that's towards the Gateway Monument for the roundabout at Stewart and South Carson. And I'm working with Public Works on that timeline, and we have some great ideas. And once I hear back to see what that amount is, I'll be in touch. One last thing, look out in the Nevada Independent next week for an interview that First Lady Kathy Sisolak and I did in promoting the First Lady Presents, which is a new opportunity to put contemporary Carson City art inside the historic Governor's Mansion, open for tours and for students. I know that was over 3 minutes, so I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Any questions for Mark? All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right. Item 5, approval of minutes for the January 13th, 2020 CTA board meeting. Any board member have any changes to the minutes?
I move to approve the January 13th, 2020 CTA board meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Item 6, adoption of the agenda. I see no reason to change the agenda as provided, so we'll continue with that. 7, discussion and possible action regarding approval of payment of up to $12,500 to Nevada State Prison Preservation Society for site improvements needed to open to the public. David, I think you got a
Yeah.
little backstory on this in a summary.
Yeah, so I'm really happy and pleased to have Glenn Wharton and Jay Mr. Brew here from the Nevada State Prison Preservation Society. I think we have a unique opportunity to invest in tours out at the prison. I think it adds very nicely to what we have going on with the Carson Trail, as well as the Stewart Cultural Center and Museum. It gives us another historic component to tours and just for a cultural, historic traveler. So we have a presentation that these two fine gentlemen are going to go through for the board to make a decision as to whether or not the board wishes to invest in the prison. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Glenn Wharton. I'm with the Nevada State Prison Preservation Society, and we appreciate the opportunity to come and make this presentation this afternoon and hopefully get something positive out of it. We are obviously in the process of making changes to the department or to the Nevada State Prison in order to obtain a change of use permit to allow public access to the old institution. I know it sounds a little strange that you can house 1,000 inmates in that structure 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but we have to get this change of use permit to allow us to take 15 people through on an hour-and-a-half tour. More than 15 people, obviously, at a time, if possible. But it's been a rather complex undertaking because we are working on state property as a nonprofit. And we are employing our own time and our own money in order to bring this about. Our objective today is to let you know just exactly what the current status of that is. And frankly, we are in a very active period of time. We have obtained approval from the State Historic Preservation Office for numerous projects, the basic projects that are necessary in order to meet those fire and safety needs in order to get that change of use permit. And we also have some other enhancements involved that are a lower priority. We have obtained permits from the Division of Public Works for the state for 3 projects, and I believe Brew is going through on Thursday with Public Works as a final walkthrough on those projects. So we have been moving towards that change of use permit. I talked to most of you when we went through the institution, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the history. other than to, say that it's just really integrated into the history of Carson City and this state. Brew and I were talking earlier this afternoon. I'm going through all the old Carson newspapers going back to 1866 and pulling out references to the institution, and it is absolutely amazing how integrated the prison was in the politics of the state, in the culture of the state, in the physical activities, the construction of buildings here, and construction of streets in Carson City. The use of inmates to build the road between Carson and Reno, the old 395 on the west side of the valley. So probably the most important thing up there recently is the placement of the institution on the National Historic Register in 2015, and that was frankly because of the pressure that we put on the state in order to carry through with the application. Obviously, for the prison, prisons are, for some reason, people love to go through these old institutions. There are several very successful examples of this throughout the United States. Eastern State Prison in Philadelphia, which is the oldest one in the United States. We have Alcatraz over in San Francisco, and there's several others. However, we have a couple of advantages here. First of all, our economy is very much directed towards tourism. So we have people coming into the area, Reno, Carson, Lake Tahoe. We would like to make the prison an additional stop in Carson City and contribute to that experience that would involve the State Museum, the V&T Railroad Museum, the Stewart Indian School, and of course ourselves. And the Capitol Complex, right, seeing as how all the stone used for it. And of course, all you can do is look around Carson. You can see evidence of the prison everywhere you look. As Bruce likes to say, it's an opportunity to put heads in the beds and perhaps hold some of those tours here in the community for our hotels, for our restaurants, and for our businesses. In terms of public exposure, I believe that the prison and using it as a museum and a historic experience is much more accessible than what you're going to find in other similar museums throughout the United States. The most obvious one and the closest one would be Alcatraz. Want to go to Alcatraz? Well, you can call up and get your reservation, and you might be able to go this summer. And then you would pay a substantial amount of money to get there. And you can go out to the Nevada State Prison and you can see almost exactly the same architecture at a facility that is older than Alcatraz was as a prison. We started as a prison in 1862. At 1862, they were a military facility. They were not a prison. Some of the things that we've been talking about, we've already engaged out there. We've had a couple of major events with the Carson Chamber. We have produced a major motion picture with Robert Redford's production company, The Mustang, which was not only exposure for the prison, but it was also an economic benefit for Carson City and northern Nevada, and even southern Nevada, because a lot of that crew came out of the South. We have done several documentaries out there, and we've done two this year, actually, or two this last year, I'm sorry. In March, we have a live-action role-playing event going on out there. I talked to Morris White, our vice president, yesterday, and he indicated that he went around with the producers for that, and they indicated that so far they were expecting 150 to 200 people over 3 days in Carson City on March 27th, 28th, and 29th. Now, that is a single event. However, they usually run these events up to 4 times single site. After that, it becomes stale for the participants. So that's going to be an ongoing thing, at least in the near term. That has been approved by the Department of Corrections. That is not our business. We're going to be there to supervise. But because we do not have that change of use permit, we can approve nothing. But we still have the Department of Corrections is able to make those decisions. So that's a little bit of wiggle room that we have there. Films, let's see, help me out, Brew. When was the first film out there?
1921.
1921. Don't have a copy of that one, can't find it. It's lost, along with a lot of historic films. But the one I really like is State Penitentiary from 1948. I don't think anybody up there on the dais is old enough to remember Warner Baxter. He starred in that. He was the original Zorro in Hollywood. Just as an aside, but it has really good shots of the old institution. They did the Death Watch in 1965 with Leonard Nimoy was shot out there. A very bad movie.
It's dreadful.
Yes, it's dreadful. It's not politically correct for the time. It's just really bad. But then we had, in the 1980s, we had An Innocent Man. And frankly, they all said they were innocent out there. But I don't know what made it so different that they had to make a movie about it. But An Innocent Man with
Sally.
Tom. And I guess the lesson there is stay out of the laundry. And then, of course, we did the Mustang here a couple of years ago. That was a very interesting exercise for us because basically it introduced our organization to movie production and took a lot of the mystery out of it. And we're very hopeful that we'll be able to use that site for future films. I know when you guys went through it, when you walk out on that yard coming out of the admin building, it is really visual. And so that makes us very popular with producers. So I'm going to let Brew move on from this point. He's going to talk about the specifics of our programs.
I'm going to apologize for the eye chart. Oh, sorry. Was green. There we go. Apologize for the eye chart here. This is our project list. The items that are identified on the chart as A's are the things that we know we absolutely need to do in order to get the doors open. The B's are some nice to haves. Since this list was delivered to David, most of the the Department of Corrections items have been approved, and everything on the list is in process at SHPO at the moment. So we're making some progress on getting our projects through the process. Glenn made the point. I'm going to remake the point. We're in a very interesting situation. We are operating on state land, which means we have to comply with the State Public Works Board and the Department of Corrections. And because we are a historically registered building, we have to go to SHPO with Mother May I for just about everything. And there's some delays involved in that, but we're doing the best we can. If there's any questions up to this point, let me know. Okay, perfect. So you want to flip? Yeah.
Okay.
So our current financial status, we're in pretty good shape. We applied for and got a J.B. Snow grant several years ago. J.B. Snow was the founder of Woolworth's department store. We had a really nice $50,000 private donation fly through the window at the early part of this year. We have about 100 dues-paying members at the moment. We are getting donations for any filming. The LARP event, live action role play, is a $10,000 donation with a $5,000 additional donation for us cleaning up their mess. We have spent about $40,000 since 2015, and I just realized this the other day, those 2,000 plus volunteer hours If you go by the SHPO grant documentation, we have to value those hours at $8.25 apiece if you're not working in your standard work. Otherwise, the value of the donation is what you would charge. So our vice president that does metal work, his time is actually worth about $40 an hour, and that's a conservative about $21,000 in donated labor so far. And in terms of what we're actively pursuing, we submitted to the Nevada Commission on Tourism, that's the PRT grant. We should have a decision next month. I'm busily writing a SHPO grant, which is actually the Commission for Cultural Centers and Historic Preservation. We should have a decision in June and funding in November. And of course, we're here with our handout to you guys today for some matching grants. One of the things that thanks to David's help, we structured the project-related tourism grant with a four-way match. And we think that's going to help us with getting that money. And of course, we're always looking for private foundations and other things. We've gone through the list of the people who have given money to Fourth Ward School, the Thunderbird Lodge, and several other places, and we think those are targets for us. And so I get to ask the question. We're here to ask you for two things. We would love the opportunity to get content onto your Visit Carson, the new Visit Carson website. And we've got our handout for $12,500 today for this matching money.
You know, I might indicate that our organization's made a very personal commitment to the development of this property. You know, a lot of the revenue that you saw coming in this organization has been recent, and some building enthusiasm for the opening of the institution. But I'll tell you that our projects that we have completed, the ones that will be seen by Public Works this week, we have totally remodeled a restroom to comply with the ADA standards so that we can have people come in. We have opened up a wall between the two major cell blocks in order to provide access through there for people with ADA issues. And additionally, what that does is it provides access to the execution chamber. And as I think I mentioned when we went through the institution, it's a little strange, but people seem to be very interested in that. And I get two kinds of calls every week. One is for access to the execution chamber. The other is for access for ghost hunters. That's a really big deal. They can't wait to get into that institution. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but you can also look on the Discovery Channel for the Ghost
Adventures.
Yeah, Ghost Adventures, where they actually did an episode out there at the institution.
And we've shared with David, and it's up on your server now, about a 5-minute hit from Channel 3 in Las Vegas. They were out just before Nevada Day. And they did a really nice job of showing people around the institute.
A lot of work. There's been a lot of work gone into that facility just to keep it presentable. When we started working out there, it was totally overgrown. You couldn't get into various places because there were so many weeds and sagebrush and whatnot. So the property is groomed. It'll stay that way, and we are ready to have contractors on site to do the ramps, the electrical work that has to be done out there in order to have lighting, emergency exits. We're going to adjust the doors to provide for emergency exits, flooring to remove asbestos. So it's not a small undertaking, but it is doable, and we are engaged. Any questions?
No, I'm glad you addressed the ADA issues, because I think when I took the tour, that was one of the main issues that you guys were having. So if this is all approved today, when can we go on a tour? When does the first customer walk through the door?
You know,
Or the
if
cell?
we can get a substantial response from Public Works Division, the projects themselves, although they seem relatively large, they're very simple. I mean, one is asbestos abatement and clearing a floor. Another one is, on the electrical one, is simply going through the existing infrastructure there, identifying circuits, closing the ones we don't need, opening the ones we do, doing some wiring to attach the emergency exit signage that's going to be required. The project for the doors are actually, because we have the expertise in our organization, we're going to be working on the fire doors ourselves. And we're going to be able to lock those open during business hours. So really, our hope is to be open sometime this summer.
Good. Well, I think it's a wonderful asset to Carson City that's hasn't been utilized, and there are a lot of different revenue streams I see that you can apply to the prison. So I personally think it's a underused, and it's a valuable asset. So I don't let the board have any comments.
I agree. I think it's something that is a very big part of Nevada, especially here in Carson City, that needs to be exposed. So, thank you.
On the 12.5, it's just basically undesignated, but to be used for projects you've pre-identified, correct? We're not earmarking it for anything? That's your ask?
We're pretty much earmarking that for a railing barrier.
Okay.
There is the walkway that we're intending to use for access to the cell house is immediately adjacent to some very uneven and rough ground. Additionally, there are areas of the institution that we don't want people to go into at this point. So it would be used for that.
Okay.
Just add to that for a second. When you were out there in your old job, we're talking about those buildings on the north side of the quad that are scary.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't know about Mike, but some of the most intimidating calls I ever went on were in that prison. Would you? Oh, yeah. And equally, and equally as intimidating was going to the women's prison. In fact, maybe even more intimidating, but that's.
You know, just as an aside, I'll tell you that some of you in town will remember George Sumner.
Yeah.
George was a big guy, former warden at San Quentin, big tough guy. Very soon after he became the warden at the Nevada State Prison, he and several other employees got called down there to the women's prison for an incident. George had a heart attack that night. Dealing with that issue. So
Well,
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, some of those stories are better left for a drink at the Globe, but anyway, I'm a little scared to ask this question, but what live action role play, what does that mean? You don't have to go into great detail. In fact,
No,
I'd be a
it's
little bit
live-action
scared if you
role
did,
play.
but what are we talking about?
It's less intimidating than you think.
Yeah, it's a group of folks that like to play soldier kinda, and what they do is they put on various pieces of body armor. They protect their eyesight and their head, and they shoot at each other with airsoft weapons. Basically, it's the same kind of activity that you see with the training from state public works or state public safety.
Right, okay.
We've done, I think it's 3 training sessions with public safety out there, and they'll continue to do that.
Okay. And I know I'm assuming the ask is going to be there again in the governor's budget. Last year, you had $250,000 and unfortunately, it didn't survive. Maybe you probably know more about that than I do.
It didn't survive the teacher's pay raise, no.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
Yes.
So we were all pushing for it here on the board, I know, and
Yeah, you know,
will you make another run at that?
we haven't decided yet. The board, there's plenty of time to put that in there.
Yeah.
We are using our political contacts to try and engage with the governor, to get out there and look at it and go through it. So hopefully, but what we're planning, what we have in terms of our resources here, what we planned for your money and whatever we get from SHPO, if we get any, is enough to open at least. And we're hopeful that maybe by the time the legislature comes around, that'll be icing on the cake.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
So that was one of my questions, if with our donation or our donation to your cause, and then the SHPO money that you're going after, that'll get you guys through your priority A stuff? Get all
Right, that
stuff
would be
done?
enough to deal with those A's up there.
Okay.
And it might, we are extremely good stewards of money, so it may cover some of the Bs as well.
Excellent, excellent. And then
A
I
lot
had
of
a que-
volunteer work goes into this, and no paid staff, we're not paying for surveys and studies, so
The
that's
other-
what the 250,000 was for, was a feasibility study.
Yeah, the other issue there is when we start dealing with contractors, it's not unusual for them to, for instance, we had an issue with Arise when we did our ADA remodel on the restroom. We came up with an asbestos issue. Contractor came out, had his people did it, cleaned it up in a day, walked out, and donated $2,000 worth of labor. So that happens too, and hopefully that'll stretch our money a bit.
And then the other question I had for you, you said you get fees for films and events. Is there like a fee schedule that you guys have out for that?
There are no fees. The interesting part about this is that we've had legislation in the past that allows us to engage and develop out there. But there is a fund established with the Department of Corrections for any monies that are generated from the Nevada State Prison. Now, when you deal with the Department of Corrections, they're not interested in developing this or supervising this. They don't have the staff, they don't have the time. So consequently, they make no demands for fees. What we receive are donations, not fees. So it's a fine point.
Well, I think on the heels of the Oscars, the two of you should join the Screen Actors Guild. That way, we make a little money on this.
Is that a comment on my presentation?
Part of the events you're going to have out there, do you guys have plans for maybe music venues out there?
Yeah, when we did the chamber, we had Lacey J. Dalton out there. I might indicate, we had those two large events out there, and it was subsequent to those that we were told we had to change and get the use permit. And frankly, that was the result of, and I don't mean to diminish any attorneys here. But that was the result of a rather timid individual who was very much interested in risk avoidance. Now, I understand that. I worked for the state for 32 years in the Department of Corrections, so I understand risk avoidance, but this went a little beyond. And frankly, the current governor and his staff, what contact we have had with them, they're like, let the Department of Corrections approve it. If they're good with it, we're good with it, so.
But I have something to add to that. Because we are within 2 miles of an active prison, no alcohol on that 2-mile radius. So that kind of makes the party a little more difficult, maybe.
Yeah, that was our problem with the bicycle event. It was the alcohol. And that's probably not going to change. So.
I have a question then. So if it's all donation, as you open, there's no individual fee if I want to come?
No, there will be at that point.
Okay.
And what we'll do is at that point, we will I tell you what we are going to do. There's a couple of trust funds that are set up for those monies that are received as fees. And we are going to make a run at the legislature to do away with those trust funds because they have to be populated to the level of $100,000 each before you can start to draw on those funds. And what we want is we want those monies immediately available so that they can be put back into the institution.
So we'll probably do a suggested donation.
Any other comments? Motion?
Sure. Where is it? I move to approve the CTA's payment of $12,500 to the Nevada State Prison Preservation Society for site improvements needed to open to the public as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Well,
Thank you very
both.
much.
Right.
We appreciate it. You can be assured we'll take good care of that money and make it go as far as we can.
And last, if anybody on the board that didn't get a chance to see it wants to, just let us know and we'll make that happen for you.
Thank you. So move on to item 8, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the CTA Statement of Accounts Payable Checks for December 2019. David, if you could hit the highlights and,
Thank you, Chair Jones. So in your packets, you have the invoice listing for accounts payable checks totaling $86,406.13 for December 2019. So I will hit the highlights. Page 1, the Eid Bailey, that's the final billing for the audit for fiscal 19, the 2290. Carson City Square, again, that's rent for December. At the bottom of that page is the payment to the Department of Taxation for the October collections that goes to the Travel Nevada folks, the Division of Tourism. Next page, those first 2 invoices, resource concepts, so that's the EIS studies, in this case for wildlife, for the trails. The second one to Mr. Brian London, he's a gentleman that we brought on board to assist us with all of the research on events. So he's looking at all of the surveys. We had over 2,000 surveys from the events last calendar year. We're now set up with the digital data collection through him. Our licensing with SurveyMonkey is also through Brian, so we're tapping into his enterprise license that he has to be able to use that. And then this covers us all the way through June 30th as well with all of those events and the data collection. So KPS 3, those are just the invoices for both contracts. The first one is the creative content, and then the second one is the web development and CRM. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that, at the Board of Supervisors level, just to officially bring this up, this and the budget report, we put on the consent agenda. And as opposed to taking time during a meeting to bring it up. So I'd like to propose, if there's not an issue with the group, that I think administratively the chair can make the decision, but we create a consent agenda, put these 2 items on it, and then if we have questions, we can ask individually through email during the week. And it can always be pulled by the general public or pulled by any one of us. But we're able to get through a lot of the things that we do at every single meeting at the Board of Supervisors by putting it on the consent agenda. And we essentially see the same things every week, or every month. So that's just a suggestion. It save us a little bit of time.
no, we spoke of this a little earlier, and I think it's a good idea, and I'm not sure of all the steps, Kieran, that we need to take to make it happen, but unless somebody's got a valid objection or want to keep it the same, going over and saying the same thing over and over, I would like to see us move in that direction.
Great, Chris and I can work on that. And then in the future, if there's anything put in the consent agenda, just like the Board of Supervisors does, and you want it moved, you can move it at the beginning of the meeting when we're adopting the agenda.
And we always ask at the board meeting, the mayor always asks if there's any of the public who want anything pulled from the consent agenda as well. It's fully open, fully transparent. It just is a way for us to conduct business a little faster.
No, I agree.
Yeah, it's good.
So I need to make a move.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I move to approve the CTA account activity statement of accounts payable checks for December 2019 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I guess I was trying to move it along even faster. But I guess we'll do item 9 still, until we get it ready. Discussion of possible action regarding approval of the adjusted CTA fiscal year 20 budget report. David?
Well, this will be the last one officially then, so I'll take
Yes.
my time if I understand what you're suggesting. No, in your packets, you have the comparative statement of adjusted revenue totaling $1,105,781.50, expenses totaling $959,044.01, and a fund balance for all CTA funds totaling $1,706,912.05. So I'll, for the last time, hit a couple of highlights in here. This report is through the 6th accounting period, so we're talking about December from the expenditure standpoint. And this is November collections, so again, expenditures first 6 months, collections first 5 months. So we're tracking at about 45.5% on the room tax collections for the year so far. Page 2, these are the payments that we have made July through November. With the exception being the capital project fund. That's the first interest payment that we've made. And correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I think we have a second interest payment, and then we'll make the final bond payment in June. So I'll just mention on page 4 of 5, Chris and I, we did move some money between the contract employees and the printing and advertising. So we're just narrowing that down a little bit between where those expenditures are ultimately going to come from. With that, the last page is basically the taxation page, as I always mention, that goes to the Department of Taxation. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
Questions, concerns? Sound like the motion?
I move to approve the adjusted fiscal year 20 budget report as presented through December 2019.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Monthly non-action items for presentation and discussion only. David, you want to start us off?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Jones. So last month on the 16th, we did submit the grant for the markers for the Kit Carson Trail. So huge thanks to Chris and the team for helping me get the language crafted for that particular grant. The grant request totaled $7,306, and of course, we have a cash match on our part. We should find out on the 18th or 19th of March if we're fortunate enough to have one of the approved applications for grants by the Commission on Tourism. And then at some point, the plan is Silver State Industries, they're going to come in and we're going to present kind of a mock-up of what one of the markers looks like. So I'm working on a meeting right now with the Public Works folks and then the Historical Society here in Carson City to kind of come out, take a look at everything, make sure we're tracking correctly in terms of how these things will look and how they'll go in the ground and all that good stuff. So look for something, I can't say it's going to be March. It might be, later on this spring, early summer. And then if there are any questions on that, happy to. Okay. Last week was fantastic for the Mint 150. It kicked off on February 4th, as you all know, and then ended yesterday. And I think it was a very successful week. It was a great partnership between us and the Nevada State Museum, Myron and his team. We know we had people coming in as far as Missouri for this event to get their coin minted. And I want to thank Jess for taking the pictures, and then Jess and Lydia actually shot the video in the tent for all of the presentations in the morning. So we had 2 cameras going, and that was thanks to Carson City and Rachel for loaning those 2 cameras out for us. And then Chair Jones delivered the comments on Tuesday night at the event at the Governor's Mansion to great applause. So a lot of hand clapping for these comments. So that was fantastic. In James' absence, I'm just going to highlight what's going on in events and sales front. So James right now is in the Midwest, Chicago and Milwaukee, to be precise, as the Reno Tahoe Territory representative for Travel Nevada's sales missions in both of those cities. So right now we're pitching tour operators and travel agents on what the whole territory has to offer. And the big pitch is really to Apple Vacations. So I think this is a great opportunity for this whole area, not just Carson City, but the Reno Tahoe Territory. In addition, James represented Carson City specifically over the weekend at the Travel and Adventure Show. So there was a booth that we had a presence at, and he worked that yesterday in conjunction with the Travel Nevada folks. So he was able to talk with consumers on a one-on-one basis as well. So it's kind of a split role for us and for James, but I'll be very curious to see what the presentations look like to these travel agents when he comes back. So appointments, changing notes to Go West, appointments opened up today for Go West Summit. James and I will be attending that in late March, if you recall, and we'll be engaging with international buyers specifically, and those are folks that are looking to bring customers to the American West region of the United States. And that's a very similar show to NTA, so that's all appointment oriented. So we'll set up specific appointments with folks that we want to meet with, and they may want to meet with us as well. So it's just a brief update on Go West. And then, as you're all aware, this coronavirus has sort of taken a life on of its own, and it's impacting tours and travel throughout the world. And so late last week, Active America China made the decision to reschedule Active America China from the first week of April to some point in September. And of course, we're going to play a major role in hosting those folks that were going to come up with Travel Nevada after that conference for the entire weekend here in Carson City. So I'm working with the hotel partners who graciously agreed to comp those stays for those tour operators to see if we can hopefully get them on board with September once the dates get figured out. So I'll keep everyone posted, but for right now, that tour is canceled at this point and rescheduled for September. Any questions on that? Okay. So we also have another great opportunity, and James will be handling this on behalf of the territory to represent the Reno Tahoe territory in Western Canada the second week of April. So Travel Nevada has a sales mission. It's going to Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. And I think this is also a very unique opportunity. It's slightly different than what's going on this week in Chicago and Milwaukee, but he will be meeting with travel partners that'll include top-selling travel consultants, agents, operators, and I think most importantly, the product managers. Those are the people that control, Trish and Mike can attest to, Carson City, Reno, Tahoe, because again, we're representing for the territory, but how we actually get into these tours. So I'm excited about this. It's first and second tier gateway cities for Northern Nevada, obviously, but I think this is going to be a great opportunity, again, to get some exposure up in Western Canada. Again, not just for Carson City, but for Northern Nevada. So it's a brief update, and this is something that's new that came up since the last board meeting. When James presents in March, we'll have some more details for the board on that front. And then the last thing I wanted to just let everybody know is we are going to have 20 tour operators from around the world here after IPW down in Las Vegas. So that'll be the first weekend of June. And I'm super excited to say that the Travel Nevada folks are going to give us an overnight here in Carson City with those 20 tour operators. So Travel Nevada, in this case, would be a little different. They're actually going to be reaching out to the properties directly. But I'm excited that we're getting an overnight out of that post-IPW fam. And these will be, again, as I said, tour operators from around the world, no specific market, but all over the place. So again, a great opportunity to showcase Carson City internationally.
So
It's the first weekend of June, and we get them on June 5th, right? Yeah, that Friday night.
So
Yeah.
just so I understand, the Travel Nevada folks will be handling all the lodging, and we won't be sending out an RFQ?
That's correct. Yeah, I just spoke with George Soka this morning, and he said that he will be handling that directly. So I did offer, but he said, no, I'm okay, I got it. So he's a pretty hands-on guy. But we're helping with the tours as well, just setting up. We've given them some ideas for their consideration, museums and hiking and several different things. Oh, well, depending on if they're here, but yeah.
Trains.
Yeah, it's in there. Yeah, no, train is in there. Yeah, in terms of tying in Virginia City. So yeah, a lot of different options that we've presented to George for consideration. And I know it's one of those boom, 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 kind of really packed tours to get them to see as much as possible before these folks head home. So Yeah. Any questions? I'm happy to address.
Transient occupancy report, David?
All right, thank you, Chair Jones. So in your packets, you have the November 2019 transient occupancy report. As you can see, it was a soft month. We were down almost 9% in terms of the overall lodging revenue, just short of being down $113,000 for the month. There is some movement, I'll remind everybody, in terms of properties switching between top 6 to 13 and then the remaining. So that's creating some of the skewed numbers that you see in here. And as you know, we cannot identify the individual properties. Chris and I are going to do an analysis once we get the December numbers in and take a look as we get halfway through the year at this report. Again, I know we've talked about this. I think we're going to come up with maybe a different format to this report because it's hard to explain why things are changing when we can't identify the individual properties that are shifting up and down between how we have them set up as a top 5 or a 6 to 13 or remaining. So we are gonna take a look at that. But I will just say it was obviously we were off for the month of November, so I don't think I need to harp on the numbers with RevPAR being down as well. So I'm hoping that December is a little better. But again, committed to trying to move some events, into these off months, these shoulder months, and working with promoters and different type of events, not just sports, but alternative type of events to bring them in an October, in a November, or a December to help us with occupancy. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to address any, of course. But well, it's funny you say that. This could be this may be something that we need to seriously think about, in talking with them. Big groups, they're here for multiple days. I think, yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is let's try to get them in November. But yeah, I think there may be a unique opportunity out there for that live role-playing stuff.
Marketing, Lydia?
All right, Dave's going to join me over here because the first agenda item that we have is that the visitcarsoncity.biz is finally live and ready to go. So we have people engaging already, which is very exciting. We have some next steps that we'll talk about after we go through the tour. But is there anyone that hasn't seen it yet? Okay, then we'll make that pretty quick. So bear with us here as we go through. Linda, can you press the button again?
While Linda is pressing that button, I'm super happy to say we've actually already had somebody come in through the website and contact James, the American Junior Golf Association. This is technically before the website was live, unless you knew how to actually get to the website. And the gentleman who is the director for the Northwest part of this group contacted James about bringing an event that right now is in Lodi. And they're looking at wanting to bring this to Carson City. And last year, it was 322 room nights that we have the potential for this group. So testament to having the website, build it, and they will come as a resource for people. So we're working that angle as well to hopefully bring this event here from Lodi. So is it?
Yeah, I'll just go through the homepage first and then
Beautiful.
we'll go through our tabs. So this is what it looks like when you're on the landing page. You scroll to the Become a Partner. Clicking Contact Us will then bring you to the Become a Partner landing page, which goes directly to Jess, who will be filtering and creating all the usernames. So we're vetting the businesses beforehand, making sure we have the correct info and reaching out if there's anything that we're missing. And then they get sent their login information directly from Jess. Scrolling down will take you right to sports and events, travel, trade, or media partners. And then will be their login to the partner portal after they've received their user information. They can click to contact us. And then we have our industry resources, which will have our new brand guidelines and assets where they can download the logos, Travel Nevada's brand assets and logos, and then also all of the tourism research that we've conducted is all pooled into this button here, which will take you to that landing page. And then after our beautiful headshots are taken this afternoon, we'll be able to add your photos up there so they all look consistent and nice and pretty. And then we also have a Visit Carson City, Meet the Team. And then we just go into our footer. And then this newsletter subscribe will actually be filtered directly to our stakeholder newsletter folder instead of being grouped in with all of our consumer information. So we have those two newsletters sent out separately. And I'm going to let Dave take you through sports and events planning and our travel trade pages.
And before I do that, I just want to say, the whole team did an amazing job, I do believe, with this website. Jess was like the super website freak builder.
She's a ninja.
Like literally, I'm talking about
Don't
what I'd
call her
love the
freak,
page.
Dave.
Oh, I mean that in the nicest way. I'm saying, oh, I'd love to see this and that, and then like 2 seconds later, she'd be like, would you refresh your page? And boom,
was great.
the stuff is coming up. So Jess, Lydia, and the whole team was providing content and doing review. Really, all 6 of them came together to put this together way faster than I thought that we were going to actually be able to get this website up and running. So kudos, Lydia, Jess, whole team. Thank you very much. And everybody kind of took control over their own sections and just owned it, which was great. And by freak, I mean that, amazing builder of websites content. So I am going to take you quickly, because James, again, is not here, through sports and event planning and then travel trade, just real brief. And I've already had some really good feedback from the Parks and Rec folks as well. Obviously, this is meant to help assist our promoters in case of the golf group. They came in through this website, saw James' information there, and gave him a call, obviously. So as you see, we have our different facilities. And again, these are not just sports. There are other event facilities for different types of groups to be able to come in and enjoy what Carson City has to offer. So this is just, again, first page. And then you can request for event information. And then we also have a lodging quote in there as well. If they're looking to bring a group in, then James will take that, and obviously we'll push that out to the lodging partners. So that's a brief overview of the sports and events planning page, and I'm hoping we captured what the board had asked for us to consider and do. What we'll do next, of course, is look at the convention space, small meeting room space that all the different hotel properties. So again, it's kind of like a phase 1, so you just have to bear with us as we move forward with convention space as well. So travel trade, this, I really like the way that this came out. And again, kudos to the team, our partners. Also, I was making phone calls to the RSCVA, to the folks up in Virginia City, to Travel Nevada, to solicit their feedback on how best to reach our travel trade partners. And we landed on splitting this into your meetings, incentive, conventions, and exhibition travel, and motor coach travel. And I think this is the easiest way for us to get at more or less everyone. And before I split off real quick, we've got different attractions. Again, we're using the scroller here so you can go back and forth. Again, James' information is on here. But here, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So for Mice Travel, again, customizing this, we took, and Lydia here, literally took the one-sheeter that we have and built it into this website, which is just fantastic, again. And I'm not going to call Lydia a freak. Yes, no, you're welcome. So we laid this content out. This has been great already, a lot of positive feedback from the industry. Again, they're always looking to see how closer are we to other things in other cities, other attractions. We've got the outdoor recreation and everything. Learn more, boom, you're back over to the consumer website. And then history and attractions, same thing. I won't click on every page. Arts and entertainment, again, with some highlights here. Food and drink as well. Places to stay, of course. And then we have attractions here, orienting those things that cost money first and putting them up on the top row. And then again, we have the one sheets. What I'll do, I'm going to back up here. Can I go back, Lydia? Okay. I'll walk you through motor coach travel just real quick. And this is the hardest, right? So everybody said, start with motor coach, and then you can pare back the information you need on the mice side. So it was excellent advice, and that's exactly what we did. We've got James on the contact side, again, with attractions that do have a price point to them. And then we have events, so they can actually click through onto the .com and look at the events. And then I think this is great here with our and I will click on these real quick, but we have the one sheet, so they can download that, they can print it, do whatever they want. And then this is our lodging and restaurant location, so those are motor coach friendly, where you can pull the motor coach right up. So we've got the places to stay, we've got food and drink, and then we also have the attractions, and then, of course, visitors information there. And then this was our follow-up piece, all credit here due to James. This is the follow-up piece that we used for NTA. And we thought, well, why not repurpose this and put it right onto the website so these folks can download and print this material. So you've got price point information, hours of operation in here. So again, I won't show every page in the presentation, but that way, if they want to call or if they want to just go get it and take it and run with it, it's all there. And then I'll save the video because you're going to cover the video. Okay, so that's a quick highlight on those two sections. Any questions? I'm happy to answer. If not, I'm going to turn it back over to Lydia. Thank you. Yeah.
I'll be brief with the rest of them. The media partners page is built out for in its majority. We have obviously our fact sheet that's general and separate from James's for the motor coach travel. But we have press topics that we'll be building out, and then obviously our events calendar too. And then added in there, we're about halfway through building the media kit, so that will be another addition that we'll add by the end of the month. And then we have an interactive map that we are looking to utilize more on the consumer site, actually. And we're building that in, but you can click whatever category you're looking for. It shows you exactly where it is in the city and your proximity to it. So this is something that we'll definitely be using. And we just have our Instagram page and our featured events. Industry resources, this is just a landing page from what you saw from the homepage. So it has all the brand assets. And then we have our board meetings, all of our upcoming and our past. We have a couple of bugs that we're figuring out with that yet, so bear with us on that one. And our contracts and financials are all on there as well. And then you have your login portal, same as here. And then you can get your Carson City Visitor Guide, which we'll be able to upload our brand new one here, hopefully within the next week, which we're very excited about. And clicking on this, we're going to be editing that so it brings you back to the .biz landing page instead of the .com. Any questions on the .biz? Awesome.
No, awesome job. I think Dave mentioned how fast it came together and how well it looks and how easy it is to navigate. Yeah, the whole team did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
No, they rocked it, so.
So the next steps for .biz are reaching out to the stakeholders for training. So Jess already has a training document built, and we're going to be building some videos. So now it's just the outreach and education. From there, we have continual updates. So if anyone does see anything on the .biz site or the consumer site, please contact us so we can edit that for you. And then the media kit and the media partners page will be the last piece that will be fully complete. Next, we'll go into the PR report for January. So even though January might not be our busiest month in Carson City, our press over the last couple of months has been really incredible. So I'm excited to share some really cool things for you that's been happening in the back end and in the media world. In January, we received unique visitors per month of 2.6 million and a publicity value of $42,100. This year to date, we're up to 3.5 million reach and a UVPM of 413.4 million and publicity value of almost $400,000. No FAMs were conducted in January. Our next one is planned for next month on March 9th. We had over 24 articles about Carson City in January. The most notable topics were the Stewart Indian School opening, obviously, and a True West article that was featured for us. And I won't go through all of those, but it was a really exciting month. But one of the ones that I'm most excited about is we were featured on Uprock's 20 most travel-worthy destinations, which is a big deal. It's read by a lot of people. And from that, Justin Walter was one of the influencers that came back in June, that came to the Capital City Brew Fest, and he's been an incredible advocate for Carson City because he had such a great experience when he came. And he has spread the word about Carson City for us. We are forever grateful. So the Uprocks article is quite a big deal for us. So I'll show you some more press that was along with that. Here in a little bit, I have a video that was a continuation of the article from there. But just to give you a quick update on social media, this last month we had 320,700 impressions delivered. We had almost 12,000 engagements and 3,400 link clicks. I know that 1,500 of those link clicks were an ad that we ran for the Mint 150 celebration, and we targeted coin collectors specifically, and it was gangbusters. It was exciting to see that much growth. And we also did an ad for the Ascent Runs, which is a winter trail series program, and this last one was at Prison Hill. And we ran an ad for them, targeting people in Tahoe and Reno and a little bit outside. And I attended that on Saturday, and obviously good weather is really helpful, but they had 50 new participants that had never signed up before. It's a pretty loyal program. They don't get a lot of new participants. So I'm confident in saying that our ad definitely contributed people to coming to Carson City. Just so you have an idea of what some of these posts look like, these are our top social posts on Facebook this month. I ran a post about the Kit Carson Trail, and John Wayne's movie was shot at the shootist was shot on the Kit Carson, one of the houses on the Kit Carson Trail. People loved that. So many people had no idea. Our Happy New Year post, and then the travel magazine also was featured at 5 favorite places to eat in Carson City in January, and that one went over really well. Instagram, we had a couple other posts that were the top performers, some of the wild horses, some incredible photography that we've been tagged in, the Happy New Year's post, and then Melody Hoover takes incredible photos all around Carson City, and her shot at the Capitol was a popular one this month. And then Twitter has a couple additional ones we did for arts and culture post, and the John Wayne and then the Happy New Year post. We are running another ad on Pinterest that's doing really well. This is only, I think we're like 8 days in. We already have 12,000 impressions clicked and almost 90 people that are clicking on that and reading their itineraries from a blog post from someone that we brought in last year. And the saves are really interesting because those are people that we get to track that are probably planning trips, and they're saving ideas for their trips or for future inspiration. So I think Pinterest gives us really more insight into the mind of the traveler and the women who are planning their trips, because it's very predominantly women that are on Pinterest. And the digital update, next month we'll have a lot more Google search and advertising stats to come along with that, just because we now have a lot more to come with the new site, and let that data build up before we throw a lot of numbers at you. The next thing we have is the new media that Jess actually produced. This was her first video to start. And so she made a motor coach video for James that he could use for his promotion, and that's what you saw on the site. So I'm hoping this works. So just a quick and easy, at least little insight into what Carson City has to offer for those motor coach travelers and group tour operators. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of flying through this a little bit. All right. Next up, we have the visitor guide that we'll have with you hopefully by the end of next week is the goal. We're hoping by the end of this week, but we'll send that out to you as soon as we have it. We just have the final proof and we're good to go. And and I wanted to tag onto that Uprocks article from Justin Walter. So I am not looking for happy hours that are local. This is actually this is Justin, who was featured on the Happy Half Hour from the Young Turks, which is a YouTube show, and they have a really large Facebook following on their YouTube. They have over 4 million subscribers, and they do this segment called the Happy Half Hour. which is really about travel, just one-off features. And Justin was there to talk about his article on Uprocks. So this is a couple minutes long, so sit back and enjoy, but I think you'll be really pleased with how he featured Carson City.
Expertise and travel as we move into this next segment, globe shotting. Usually we travel the world with weird news stories, but now we have someone who actually travels the world. You did the Uprocks hot list.
The 2020 hot list, and Uprocks is an amazing place for travel information. This list brought together the youngest, most diverse kind of group of travel writers of any list that comes out every year, which was great to be a part of. And they take a lot of things into consideration. They have one of the writers was an indigenous person who wrote for like Havasu Falls, how to go to Havasu Falls, where you're going to do it in a socially conscious way. So they wanted to bring voices, the LGBT community and minorities and a diverse, young, fresh group of writers, photographers, Instagrammers, all varieties of people together for this list.
And it's all in different categories. There's hotels,
Places, experiences, drinks, food.
And I would feel lucky to write about one of these things. You have 3 features.
I did write 3 features for it.
I also, as we'll get to later, I've been to one. I looked through the hotels. I was like, I've been to that hotel. We'll talk about that. But let's start with the number 23 on the list, Carson City, Nevada. So tell us about Carson City, right? You write, sure, you can get a Wild West history feel here. But it's got some small town hot list worthy stuff.
Yeah. So I think Nevada people think Vegas, Burning Man, Lake Tahoe. I went to Carson City, which is the capital of Nevada, and was blown away by how much fun we had. It was like a home, I describe it as like a home base for big town adventure. So we drove 30 minutes from our home base in Carson City to go to Lake Tahoe. We went clear bottom kayaking on Lake Tahoe, gorgeous, amazing, beautiful.
So clear bottom, is that weird out?
No, there were no fish, but you just see the turquoise waters under you, and it was amazing.
Oh, that would scare me.
I loved it. Awesome. Then we went at the beginning of summer, and I was with a group of travel writers, and we went to the Capital City Brew Fest, which was like this small, cute downtown area was shut down with tents and different vendors with beer. We brought these little beer glasses all around and just filled it up. And you could tell we were outsiders because everyone knew each other. It was small town vibes and feels, so everyone came up to us and, where are you? Who are you from? And it just was so warm and welcoming. And then we went, bar hopping to these dive bars in the town at night, and it was just such a fun night and experience.
That's the best thing about like towns that haven't been that aren't like giant cities. They still maintain.
It's not touristy. There were not a lot of tourists there. So it was this untapped, like cool, almost like Western kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And there was even 5 minutes from downtown, there's hiking where there's gorgeous views of the city, hiking trails, Kings Canyon Trail, where we hiked within 10 minutes to a 25-foot waterfall that we went in.
That's awesome.
Where is this place? I've never heard of it, besides it being the capital, and it has all this cool outdoor adventure.
That's awesome.
I loved it.
Let's travel to...
Yeah, I was really, really
Was that
excited. They just
phrase?
posted that yesterday.
What was that phrase that they said? The hometown, what did, can you go back?
Oh, boy.
Did anyone else hear it? No. Yeah.
There's like a hometown feel.
I know you people in the dive bars. I got you.
5 minutes from
Hometown.
downtown, there's hiking where there's gorgeous views
It was
of the
like a
city.
base, home
hiking
base
trails,
for-
Kings
For big time
Canyon
adventure.
Trail.
Yeah, is that
He's
what it
used
is?
that a couple times.
within-
Yeah,
Does it say home base for big
for
time?
big time adventure.
Yeah. That we should steal that.
I have a few times. Yeah, I have a few times.
Really good.
It is,
That's
and
really good.
we've had it. That's like the best way that these adventure enthusiasts really described
I
it.
like that as good or better than some of the stuff that, we've heard from our consultants, quite frankly. That's really good to me.
Yeah, we've
Maybe
stolen
I'm
that a few
just-
times.
Maybe I've hit too many dive bars, but it is. I just like it.
No, I thought
No,
it was
I
very
think it's
genuine.
good. I think it's good. I think it appeals to that adventure crowd. So I think that, where history lives and adventure awaits, like we get to use that, depending on who we're featuring in the content that we're at. So we've definitely used that. And
Speak into their base. the
right,
people that,
they've used Launching Pad for adventure. So we definitely got some great content from them. So it's just a big testament to doing a personal group and being able to guide these people from a local perspective and give them that local point of view. The people at the Capital City Brew Fest couldn't have treated them any better. So we're excited to do this again in June. We're planning it for the weekend that Epic Rides is here. And we'll be having quite the adventure. And then too, so we're in the midst of planning that. And my last thing that I have is we were actually contacted today by PBS in Reno for the Wild Nevada show. And they'll be doing a feature on Carson City. And he actually said, without me prompting anything, we're going to be using Carson City as the hub. And I think that we're continuing to prove ourselves right in our studies and what we're seeing. And it's been exciting to really see this branding come to life, and people are finding and discovering it themselves.
Who are they using? Do you know who they're using as experts for that yet? Have you heard?
For the show?
Yeah.
His
Because you know how they tap local experts to show them hidden historical or hidden
Yeah, I think I'm
bits
actually
and-
going to be guiding them they're going to go to the waterfall and they're going to go to Stewart. And so they've
Perfect.
already set it up with
Perfect.
Stacy Montooth. So I think I'll just be guiding them on the waterfall loop trail. And then they're looking for one other adventure where we might tap into some of the rock crawlers and OHV enthusiasts. We might get them out on Prison Hill because they've done the Kit Carson Trail already a couple years ago. So a lot of our historical sites they've already been to. We also pitched them the Carson City trifecta of the Shoe Tree Brewery and the Carson Hot Springs and Sassafras, and they appealed to that too. So I think getting them with the Shoe Tree brothers would also be a good fit. So we'll see what comes, but it'll be at the end of February.
I would also suggest the Battleborn Museum in the Capitol, maybe.
Yeah, I need to make sure
picture
that
that.
they haven't done that. I guess that seems so obvious. I didn't double check, but yeah, I'll make sure.
Yep. I think that's a good, fair, ask, because this is season 5, and it's been at least 2, if not 3 years, I think, since season 4. So they wouldn't know about that because season 4 was before October 2018. Yeah.
That would
so
be
we can
explained when it
definitely-
didn't get brought up. About every other museum did, so that's good to know. Yeah, I will definitely pitch that too. So I'm excited to be working with Dave and see what comes of that. But we'll have an update for you in March. And that is all I have for you guys for today. If there's any questions.
Questions? No? No? Great presentation.
Yeah.
Thanks. Future agenda items, David, anything, request?
Yeah, if the board has any requests, we may have a presentation by the VNT at the March meeting. So we'll be talking a little bit about rail bikes, hopefully, if all goes well. Bringing those as a new attraction, new activity for our visitors to Carson City to be able to engage in. So that's the only thing I know of for the March presentation at this time.
Okay. Upcoming meeting, March 9th, 2020 at 4 o'clock, same place, same time. Any comments or announcements from the board? If none, public comment. Please come on up.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Board. Dave Whitefield. I'm on the Parks and Rec Commission, but I'm here as a citizen today. Although I would like to comment, I'm really impressed with the way Chairman Jones runs the meeting. I'm impressed with the board and all the presenters, and I would like you to come give us a lesson in running the meeting because our last Parks and Rec Commission meeting went over 4 hours. We were all dying, but so maybe some lessons are in order. We have a lot of new members on the board.
It's from
so-
month to month, David. It's,
Hey, you weren't here last month.
yeah.
They did give me $20 apiece to get the meeting
get it
done in
going.
under an
This
hour and a
one-
half.
This one went really smoothly, so I'm very impressed. I really didn't intend to speak today, but I do have something I'd like to get on the agenda, and I'll be talking to Dave about this on Wednesday morning. I've invited him over to the MAC to see how our pickleball group operates. And as you noticed, I am an addict. But we're doing some exciting things here for the city, I think, in terms of promoting the sport of pickleball. And some of you know what it is, but some of you may not. But I think this is a sport that's, well, I know it's a sport that's growing dramatically. And I think it's something that we could really promote here in Carson, and it could do a lot of good for the community in terms of health for the citizens and also bring a lot of tourism into the city. So I would like to be able to put something on the agenda at some point to make a more formal presentation and kind of present some of the ideas that we have about what we're doing, what we think, where we think this could go, and what it could do for tourism here. So that's kind of I'm trying to keep it short, so that's kind of the gist of what I'm thinking about.
No, thank you. I know a little bit about pickleball. It looks like something I maybe could still do. So that excites me. But just get with David and, work on the presentation, and we'll be, thrilled to see it.
Thank you. I want to mention too, we just had some contact in the last week with Kai Risson, who does Aging and Awesome on Channel 2. And we have a tentative date for Wednesday, the 19th, I believe, for his crew to come to the MAC and to Carson City to film. They were originally, when he first pitched it, or first talked to him, he said, we want to do this in Reno. And I said, well, why would you want to do it in Reno? We have the finest indoor pickleball facility in northern Nevada and maybe in all of Nevada. So why don't you come here and see what we're doing? And he agreed. So we're going to be doing that. It'll be on Channel 2. I think it airs 7 p.m. Saturdays.
Who did you say it was?
Kai Risson is the producer.
Oh, and they have a show.
Yes.
What's it called again?
It's called Aging and Awesome, which
Okay.
makes this sound like an old people's sport. But we have a lot of young people playing too, and there's a lot here to offer. So, and I think after seeing Lydia's presentation, which was wonderful, I think maybe we want to coordinate some information, some content on the MAC and pickleball. I didn't see the MAC anywhere, and this is a beautiful facility. I don't know how many of you. I'm sure you've mostly seen it or been through it or played basketball or had a kid there or something. But I mean, we're just thrilled to have this. We're working on some ideas too with Parks Director Budge on possibly having some of the Reno Senior Games pickleball events held here instead of where they are now. This is in the early stages, so I don't know how that's going to go, but she's receptive, and if Reno's receptive, we might see summer games here in Carson. So anyway, I'll cut it off there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, we have one more agenda item, and that's to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.